Professor Layton and the last Specter. Last Specter. Oh. Fuck. Okay. Hey guys, what the fuck is up, you guys? My name is emandan642. And welcome to Professor Layton and the last Specter. This is the fourth game in the series, and this game is a prequel to the previous three. I mentioned that before, but I'll mention it again. It is the first in the series. Unknown Future was the last in the series, and Last Specter is the first in the timeline. This tells the tale of Luke's first big mystery and how he met Luke. This game is a bit weaker compared to the previous two games. It's better than Curious Village, but it's not as good as the other two. Most of that comes down to the story. For me, the story in these games is the most important part. The puzzles are fun and challenging and all, and I like them, but the characters and the story in these games is what really makes them shine. As I stated in the reviews of Diabolical Box and Unknown Future, those games have tremendous stories. But this game is a bit weaker in that regard. The story starts with the classic Layton getting a letter, of course, but before I go on, I'd like to mention, I like how we see Layton sleeping on the couch at the beginning. Sounds weird, I know, but I like how we see him in a more natural habitat. We see more human side, I guess, instead of the absolute god that he is. It shows how much he cares about his work. He gets a letter from Clark Triton, Luke's father, who is an old friend of Layton's, from Gressenheller University. The letter states that a giant specter is attacking the city of Mist Hallory, which isn't a bad premise for a story at all. It's just where it went that was bad. On his way, he meets up with Emmy Altava, who is Layton's new assistant, hired by Dean Del Mona. At first, he's hesitant about having an assistant, but he later lets her stay, which is an odd thing from Layton. But it's interesting to see Layton before the events of all of these 6 games. He clearly went through a good amount of character development through the games. Also, we find out that he is 34 at this time, and according to the World of Professor Layton book, Luke is 10 at the time of Last Specter, and Layton is 37 at the time of Unknown Future. So that is a 3-year difference between Last Specter and Unknown Future. Also, that means Luke is 13 by Unwound. Huh. I would have guessed at most 12, but okay, I guess he's 13. Unlike Flora from the original trilogy, Emmy is actually useful. She can kick ass and take names. She also actually helps Layton numerous times in the game, as well as not being really annoying. So they go to Mist Hallory and hear a bit about the Specter from townsfolk, as well as rumors about a witch and an oracle who is able to predict where the Specter will attack next, and the rumored Golden Garden, which Mist Hallory is said to be built over, but no one has ever found any proof of its existence. They meet up with Clark and find out he's the mayor, and that he didn't actually send the letter. Layton meets with Luke for the first time, who actually sent the letter. Luke can sometimes be a little bit of a whiny bitch in this game. Like, I know he's going through some shit currently, his mom is missing, and the Specter is attacking his town. It's pretty natural for him to feel like this, even though it's not that bad in the game. It just sometimes is a bit out of character for him. Layton reveals that Luke is the oracle that can predict the Specter's next attack. So they head over to Great Eli Street, where the next attack will be. After I first played this game years ago, I always remembered this game as feeling shorter than the other ones, even though it's around the same time length of the other games. But why was it so short? Because so much of the game is just roaming around doing nothing. I went around and solved every puzzle in this game, and there was a lot of backtracking to get to every single puzzle. Even if you weren't solving every puzzle, there was a lot of backtracking, which wasn't really a problem in the other games, but it is in this game. Even if you didn't solve every puzzle, there's a lot of roaming around. In Chapter 1, you roam around, then go to Triton Manor and talk to Clark. In Chapter 2, you talk to Luke, then roam around. In Chapter 3, you roam around, then the Specter appears. In Chapter 4, you roam around and have a confrontation with the Black Ravens and go to the Black Market. I know you have to search for clues and talk to people and expand the world, but here, there's too much time talking to random characters that have ever so slightly to do with one part of the plot. That have ever so slightly to do with the plot as a whole. Okay. Now onto something the game does right. The puzzles! The game expands on the puzzles more so than the previous games. Many of them are really unique and interesting. The quality isn't the best in the series here, but there are many good ones. Like puzzles that don't actually have a definitive answer that you can't just cheat on. You actually have to strategize and predict certain moves that the opponents will make. This is basically what I kind of wish the puzzle battles were, except it's not super tense, it's just kind of picking beer bottles. Also, the new puzzle music is awesome, and the puzzles have more life when it comes to visuals. The 3 minigames this time around are the toy train, which is kind of like the toy car from Untitled Future, but you have to avoid causing an accident and killing numerous people. The fish is kind of like the parrot from Untitled Future, but you have to collect all the coins and complete it. The puppet show is kind of like the picture book, but dumb. There are also Emmy's episodes, which are cool little scenes of random interactions between many of the characters, which is cool for character and world building, but many of the characters are only mildly interesting. Also, there are an assortment of random items that you could find throughout Miss Hallory that are a part of a collection. They are pretty cool and give a bit of world building to Miss Hallory. Miss Hallory is a pretty neat place. Unlike most of the other towns in the series, Miss Hallory has this calming vibe. It's really peaceful, besides the Specter, with a lot of nature and wildlife and rivers. It's a beautiful place, and the music complements it so well. Again, it's peaceful and calming. The music in this game is just outstanding. It's a very close call between Unwound and this game for a soundtrack, but it's hard to compare them as they are very different in mood and atmosphere, and it's just very hard to choose. So back to the story. Layton, Luke, and Emmy stay at the hotel at Great Eli Street that night. They hear a flute playing a song, then the Specter appears. It attacks the hotel. When they go out to investigate, the whole street has been wrecked. By this time, the Specter is nowhere to be seen. In the morning, they investigate at the black market because an ancient flute was auctioned off there, and this flute may have a connection to the flute that they heard last night, or maybe the same one. So they go there and ask around, but are attacked by a guy in a black cloak and a weird bird mask called the Black Raven. They lose him because he is too fast and he could skip parts of the game, dude. Almost as if he could teleport. So after that, they eventually gain access to the black market and find out that the Black Raven is a fucking child. What? Not just one child, but there are a bunch of children dressed up in the same outfit. That's why he seemed so fast, because there were multiple of them. Okay. So the head of the Black Ravens is another kid named Crow, who is a decent character in itself. We learned from him that the flute was sold to Mr. Evan Bard, who is a rich man that died about a year ago. He lived atop High Yard Hill, and no one has been to his mansion in years because his daughter is known to be a witch, because bad things always happen whenever anyone speaks ill of her. They head to the Bard Manor, and that's really it for the black market's importance, which is a letdown because I remember it being so much cooler as a kid, mostly because it had the cool music. But it really wasn't that important. That's a problem with this game. There are many cool little things in the story, like the black market, the Black Ravens, the witch, the oracle, a lot of cool ideas that really don't actually amount to much. Like, I like when there are many elements to a mystery. I know I keep bringing them up, but Diabolical Box and Untitled Future do that so well. There are a lot of elements that add up to the grand story in a very satisfying way in those games. But this game lacks that. They go to the manor and meet Seamus, who is the family gardener. Knowing that all of Evan Bard's workers were let go after he died and that the yard looks like it haven't been cleaned in an extremely long time, they come to the conclusion that Seamus is holding Evan's daughter Ariana and son Tony hostage, and they break in. They meet Ariana and Seamus, who isn't holding her hostage. They kick them out of the manor. Luke tells Layton and Emmy that Ariana is very sick and does not have long left to live. Sick with what, you ask? Who knows? It's just important, okay? I'm telling you, it's just important. Don't ask questions. Seamus takes a boat down to the markets that decide to follow him. Once there, they ask where he went, but find him nowhere. They find out about a kid who bought all of the market's candy at once, which is very unusual. Ooh. Also back in town, a witch's mark is painted on someone's house with a candy wrapper on the ground in front of it. They head back to the Bard Manor and confront Ariana. Layton reveals that Seamus is actually Ariana's brother, Tony, the whole time. And he confesses to spreading the rumors about Ariana being a witch and all, just so people would leave them alone, because everyone hated Evan because he made taxes too high or something. They go to the police station and try to gather information on Evan Bard's death. The police chief is investigating on his own, so Emmy goes back to London to gather information from there. Nothing of importance really happens here, but it's cool to see more of London. There we see Dean Delmona, Inspector Chelmy, and Barton, and a new character, Inspector Grosky. Emmy gets the info that she needs and heads back for Miss Hallory, along with Grosky. The three then meet, back up, and then they meet Police Chief Jakes, who is obviously the villain here. For some reason, he just has it out for Layton, and gives them 24 hours before he will kick them out of Miss Hallory. Obviously, he's covering something up. Later that night, Luke predicts where the Specter will attack next, and sets up a trap for it. As they predicted, the Specter shows up and Layton gets a good look at what the Specter really is. Immediately, as the Specter disappears, Jakes comes with his men, and arrests Layton, Luke, and Emmy, and they are sent to prison. In the morning, they break out and head to the Bard Manor once again. Okay, now, it's spoiler time. Click to the time skip. Or don't! Please don't! Please don't! Alright, Ariana and Tony have been hiding something. And what is it? It's the fucking Loch Ness Monster. Like, what? It comes across as really silly. Especially this weird relationship that Ariana and Tony have with it. But wait, it just gets better later on. So this creature, Lucia, is the last of her kind and lives in the lake, and is friends with Ariana and Tony. Layton says that Lucia technically isn't the Specter, but we'll get there in a bit. So Jakes shows up and captures Lucia, saying it is the Specter, and arrests Ariana for being the witch. After that, Layton and the gang explore more of the area that they haven't before, the abandoned factory. And what they find is technically the real Specter. Everyone gathers at the plaza where Jakes has captured Lucia, and Layton reveals what the Specter truly is. And it was the machine from the factory, which is a digging machine that was used in Search of the Golden Garden. And what the Specter really is was Lucia fighting this machine, trying to protect Miss Hallory from it. Yes, the giant Specter was all along Lucia and a giant machine fighting, that apparently due to the darkness and fog appeared as one. Layton also reveals that the Triton butler, Doland, was actually Jean Descalais, the main villain who has kidnapped Mrs. Triton and the real Doland and threatened to hurt them if Clark didn't let Descalais and Jakes continue with their plans. So Descalais is an awesome villain. He is mysterious and powerful. He is an actual threat to Layton. But we will see more of him in the next games. All of the digging machines come together to form a big-ass robot. There's this last battle kind of thing that takes place, which I always thought was the coolest thing ever as a kid, but it's really just a few glorified puzzles with fucking amazing music though. Then Layton builds a catapult and defeats the robot, and Descalay escapes. So then Lucia keeps beating her head on the dam door, the dam door, like the water dam door, and breaks it down, revealing that the Golden Garden was hidden under the lake the whole time. Lucia sacrifices her life so she could save Ariana's. The air in the Golden Garden is so pure that it heals her. Okay. We get this scene where Ariana and Tony have this sad goodbye to Lucia, and it's really cringe, not gonna lie. It's really silly to have this Lucia creature. Luke begs Layton to take him on as his apprentice because he enjoyed the time that he had with Layton so much. And that is how Luke became Layton's apprentice. That is the end of this game. Wow. This ending was really disappointing. It was really abrupt and weird. This is a really haphazardly way to solve this mystery. Jakes was a fine villain, but was ultimately pointless in the end, as well as many of the plot points. Descalay was cool, but he seemed a bit too I'll get you next time Spider-Man, but it was not nearly as bad as Don Paulo was in the original trilogy. Lucia was really dumb in the scene that was supposed to be really sad. It was just dumb. The Golden Garden thing felt like it didn't need to exist, even though it was actually really important, and it was the reason the whole game happened. It just felt like there was a big disconnect between the Golden Garden and the rest of the plot. I would say that the story started off decently well, but there wasn't much story at first at all. And many of the things didn't really matter later on. But this game does make you really wonder who the hell Descalay is and what his true motivations are. And Descalay's theme and the last battle theme are two of the absolute best songs in the entire series. So that was Last Specter. Wow. I know I've shown this game's story a lot. In between those moments of cringe or nothing happening, there were a lot of moments I really did enjoy. The environments were beautiful. The music is outstanding. The characters were mostly tolerable. None of them were really bad. The story was pretty weak, but everything else is almost as good as the previous games. The story irked me in this game, obviously, but it didn't irk me nearly as much as Curious Village. Why? Because that game wasn't trying to tell a big story. It was a pretty simple story that was perfect for the first game in the series. This game's story was trying to be big and good and failed. This is also the fourth game in the series that came after Diabolical Box and Unknown Future, which have infinitely better stories. I'm going to give Professor Layton and The Last Specter an 8 out of 10. Again, I know I shat on this game's story a lot, but it's only because I love the series and I expect better from it. And besides the story, I did enjoy everything else. Okay, this video was way longer than I thought it was going to be. I feel a bit laid out at the moment, but I'm going to keep going. How many videos do we have left? 3 left. Wow. Including Layton's mystery journey. I am really laid out. Fuck. This has been Professor Layton and The Last Specter. Oh, fuck you.